Farewells are hard,
Mm. What are you going to
sometimes.
do? You have an announcement for us?
Yeah, I'd like to announce that I'm saying goodbye to my dear friend and District 4 constituent, Jeffrey Harris from City Council.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Jeffrey.
Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you.
Yeah, there are some people that, politically you don't really align with, and you're not sorry to see them go. And
yeah. So this is, folks, city council member who was a thorn in the side of every progressive within the city, who was drawn out of his district thanks to the good people of Sacramento, and now no longer has a seat, and is quote unquote retiring. A couple other people leaving city council, District 1, Angelique Ashby. Unfortunately for all of us, she beat Dave Jones for the Senate seat. Yeah, and we're stuck with her for 4 years there. And then Flo, I believe you were bidding farewell to another person today, correct?
Yeah, I was bidding farewell to Jay Chenier. His retirement party was this evening, and he was the member who appointed me to both active transportation as well as to the Measure U Community Advisory Committee. And so my term ends with his term, and I am not applying to be reappointed. So December 31st is the end of my Measure U term as well. And so we said goodbye to him today. And it was, it was really interesting to reflect back, because I think everybody knows famously that Jay and I don't agree on everything. And we had some major disagreements about big things. But I also appreciated that,
one of the big things that you had a disagreement on was that he thought your friends were terrorists.
He thought he and he did not love the op-ed that I wrote in response to Gil Duran's op-ed that was about the protests at the mayor's house.
So this is inside baseball, folks. Gil Duran is the former opinion editor at the Bee, who really the left helped oust really impressively, actually. They all of the quote unquote serious people of Sacramento got very angry during the COVID era when people were protesting the deaths of our unhoused neighbors in inclement weather and choosing to take their protests to the homes of our elected officials and the city manager, because obviously none of them were working at City Hall at the time because it was the pandemic.
Right.
To them, this was terror. This was, somebody knocked over a statue in the mayor's lawn. It was, obviously. Sorry, keep going, Flo.
Yeah, so that was a whole thing. And so, and we also just didn't always agree on, policy and how we should do things and how, much money the police should get and things like that. But there were also a lot of things that we were able to collaborate on. And so one of the people tonight talked about, Jay Chenier as being one of the elected officials who's done the most for young people in the city. And I have to agree with that assessment, just in terms of, he ran 3 ballot measures or supported 3 ballot measures to be able to try to establish the youth fund. The last one, Measure L, just passed. And so that was, really helpful, but went against some of his closer colleagues and friends to support Measure G in 2020 and to support, I think it was Measure Y before that.
Both failed, but it's basically the same measure.
But it's very similar to the one that just passed. And just actually yesterday, the council voted to add a non-voting
Tuesday, December 6th.
Sorry. The council voted to add a non-voting youth member ages 18 to 24 to the council as a way to be able to, build up kind of youth leadership. And I thought that was a really cool way to kind of end his time on the council. Apparently Fabrizio doesn't think so and said it is the fart that he left in the room or something like that, which I thought was a weird take. And also Fabrizio doesn't know. He was like, why are youth 18 to 24? And I was
Fabrizio
like,
Sasso
yes. And I was,
of
yeah.
the Central Labor Council. That's
So
quite
he-
a phrase.
He definitely got a shout out at Jay's retirement party when he said what he listed off the 10 things that he's not going to miss. And one of them was social media. And then shouted out this post. And I went there and I was like, Fabrizio, this is a bad take. So on a thing that like, and then to say like, I didn't know youth were 18 to 24. And I was like, where have you been for the past like 30 years? Do you read? Like, I was really confused.
Like the term homeless youth is up until 24. Yeah.
Transitional age youth, like all
Yeah.
the things. So I'm just, yeah, it's a really strange take, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, again, you know, I think this council has, you know, together done some, you know, some things that I really disagree with. But one of the things I did appreciate was always being able to say to Jay, I really disagree with you here, and I think this is a bad take. And, you know, often him hearing me out on that, and despite not agreeing with me on a lot of things, appointing me to Measure U, and I've served as the chair, and, you know, really have, you know, for what it's worth, I think enjoyed the time I spent with my colleagues on that. So
you use that as a really incredible bully pulpit, I think. And Jay, I will thank you forever for providing Flo this platform to scream for 8 minutes at the mayor.
That may
and
be
for
one
that
of the things
to
Jay also
really go
regrets.
viral.
But you know, here we are. So yeah, so he's leaving the council, and I really also just enjoyed working with his staff. You know, they've been really incredible over the years. So you know.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I'll say about Jay is he's a nice guy. I really, when I think about Jay's tenure, I think about the great Sacramento journalist Cosmo Garvin, and he wrote a fantastic piece really educating folks on what a behest is. And Jay created a whole network of nonprofits and then got all of these little donations to all these nonprofits in really kind of a like, what's this about way that like Cosmo, I don't know any other journalist that could have kind of like uplifted a story like that the way he did. So we miss you, Cosmo. He's over at Mastodon if you want to follow him.
Yeah.
I miss Cosmo. He did such good work.
Yeah, now he's got that cushy state job. Yeah.
Something about health benefits and a regular paycheck are really enticing.
I know.
You know,
I'm
which you
halfway
don't always
there,
get in
but
journalism.
I also don't want to go to work, so in a building. But no, I mean, yeah, so we've got a massive change in city council. I'm sure we'll be talking about that in the future. We might even talk a little bit about that this episode. But anything else we want to discuss real quick on these fond farewells to our friends Jeff, Jay, and Angelique?
Yeah, I don't know what else to say. You know, there's only one of them that I'm bidding a farewell to. So
and
the others are more like good riddance. So.
We have city council's cool dad, the one person from the odd district sticking on, and that would be Rick Jennings. So yes. So plenty more of Rick to come in the coming 4 years. Yes. Well, let's get started with the episode.
Let's do it.
Heck yeah.
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Oh, hello everyone. You have Kempa.
And Shannon.
And Flo.
And Michelle. Hi.
Oh my God.
It's such different energy than what I brought to the mic.
I love it. And
we
no
come
Skylar
as we
today.
are, Shannon. We come as we are.
Oh,
we do. Yeah. Like whatever energy we have today. Skylar not here. We're talking about local things today. Skylar's got to be out doing the things. And so we have our guest host Michelle on today. How you doing, Michelle?
I am great. Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Just real quick, folks, before we get started with this phenomenal episode, you like what we do. We like what we do. If you like that we like what we do, why don't you just like pay us $5 a month for it, right? Like, no big deal. Don't even like, don't make a big deal out of it. It's you're making a big deal. We're not making a big deal out of it. So go to patreon.com/Voices River City. As little as $5 a month. You know, that's a beer at the bar that I guess we're going to now that the pandemic's over-ish. But have one less beer tomorrow and give us $5. This is good. This is a good pitch. I feel good.
You're really selling it.
Yeah. Feel real good.
Have one less beer and give us your money.
Yeah. Half a pack of the menthols that Flo has legislated against. Is this working? Is this working for you folks?
I'm not loving how I always become the villain, you know?
But no, you know, we I don't know. This is the show's turned into something that we really love to do, and like we're just trying to help move things forward the way that we all are, right? The way that all of you out there doing your mutual aid efforts and your direct action, and like, you know, those of you who are doing like electoralism, like this is our little part, and like it helps to support one another in these endeavors. Moving it on to other things. I guess that's all I got to say about it. Let's get to the news of the day. Let's talk about the shit.
Let's do it.
I hear there's been a deal, and there's been a deal between the city of Sacramento and the county of Sacramento, and this has something to do with our situation with, I can't do that accent anymore, with the homelessness crisis here in the city and county. Shannon, can I hand it over to you? What is this deal? What's it about?
Yeah. The deal is super sick. It's called the city county legally binding partnership agreement to address the homelessness crisis, which is it's
also the name of my memoir. Yeah.
It's the subtitle of the Kempa memoirs. Yeah, so this was presented before the Sacramento City Council on Tuesday, December 6th. And it's like 19 pages of a lot of things, which really comes down to, I think, 3 points, which is that this binding partnership says that the city and the county are going to add one additional mental health center to the downtown area. There are currently 4, I believe. There's like Guest House, El Hogar, Mental Health Clinic, Turning Point, or T-Core, Hope Cooperative is one. So these are mental health services that are housed, they're contracted with the county and housed within other organizations. The agreement also says that within 36 months of the adoption of the agreement, that there will be 200 shelter beds that are created. Now, in total, they're saying that it's 600 shelter beds. But the thing is that the 400 shelter beds have already been approved and identified in South Sacramento and North Highlands.
And these are also to be funded by the county. Yeah.
Yep. So 200 more shelter beds within city limits. And then the third thing is outreach teams. So these are some of the folks who will be doing the outreach to encampments are folks who are already employed by the city or the county. Think Department of Community Response. And others will be hired and trained. I think this includes mental health workers who will drive people to get connected with mental health professionals and with medicine if necessary. so that there will be 10 people who are hired as behavioral health workers that will be able to diagnose folks on the spot and then transport them to mental health, like outpatient service locations where they can receive their prescriptions should they need them. But they can get outpatient treatment for mental health diagnoses. And these outreach efforts are set to begin as early as next week. And they will begin with the encampments that the city and county have identified as like the greatest risk for like health and safety. So in that case, we can think about encampments like Camp Resolution on Colfax. We can think about encampments on like in the WX corridor, for example. Probably like any encampments that are near schools will be reached out to, because there was a huge deal made of that by now Senator Ashby. So this is, that's like the real like summary of the agreement. I think
Can I just mention real quick, because I forgot to mention this at the top when you first started describing it. This is important because historically, the city of Sacramento and Sacramento County officials, elected officials, have not had good communication. They have not worked together on solving the homelessness crisis. And, obviously the homelessness crisis has gotten worse in our state, in our region in particular, due to a lot of reasons too, like due to our housing crisis, and a number of things. Really, our numbers have exploded here, but the response of a lot of officials has not been good enough. And in a lot of ways, the county has not stepped up to bat. Their general, like, the amount of money they have on any given year is about 7 times that as the city. The city has about $1 billion. The county has about 7 billion. The county, it's their onus to actually do mental health services, a lot of homeless services, and they just haven't been carrying that water. Am I missing anything there? Okay, so that's why this is a big deal. And Shannon, what was the next thing you were going to say?
No idea. I don't remember.
What was it in regard to Measure O by any chance?
No, because I was going to let you do that.
Okay. Folks,
100%.
let me talk to you about a little measure called O. So I don't know how much we want to dive into Measure O, but basically this was a big fight between the interests of capital, real estate, big business in our region against basically the people, against, labor, against advocates, housing advocates, homeless advocates, against like the ACLU, the Democratic Party. Really anyone who like has half a heart was fighting against this, because it's a punitive measure that's basically trying to reinstate sweeps, right? Homeless sweeps that we know are harmful, that we know result in deaths, that a number of folks have researched, including Boston University. Like, this is the natural result of homeless sweeps, is more human suffering and death, really. We fought against that. We lost this last election by about 4 points. I've got some thoughts on that. I don't know if we want to get into that today. But, there's some soul searching we can do, all of us can do, as far as how that ended up happening. But we put up a really good fight, because the language they put into this measure was very, very confusing. And the folks we reached, we did change their minds, but we just didn't reach enough folks in enough time. So now we have this harmful measure that is now officially going to be triggered because of this deal between the city and county. Flo, you have publicly said many times that a deal is fine, right? Like, it's good to have a deal between the city and county. They should be working in tandem on homelessness, but it did not need to be tied to a harmful measure like this.
At all.
No. Now, one thing I'll say about Measure O, though, is they had to use our language to beat us, right? They had to talk
They
about
co-opted it.
Yeah, and that gives me some faith that folks in the city of Sacramento, voters, really want to do something to help people.
Mm-hmm.
I think they had the wool pulled over their eyes a bit on this one.
It's one of
but
those
we'll see.
measures, if I was a random voter and like a little lower information, I've had a busy month or something, and I'm looking at my ballot and it's like the last few days before the election, I'm thinking like, what is this saying? I don't know what this is saying to me, you know?
Yeah, I talked to a lot of people who realized too late that they voted wrong. Because of the language that was used. You know, and it's shitty. I mean, I think it fucking sucks that
Mhm.
it ended up this way. I think that one of the things that I'm already tired of hearing is just how incredible this partnership is and how like unprecedented and creative and yeah, just incredible.
Yeah.
I
It all
mean,
is.
it's maybe 600 beds in a while. You know, the time frame on that is like, I think
Yeah,
the second 200 beds comes in like 36 months or something,
36
and
months. Yeah.
then 200 more beds, provided that the city of Sacramento give a shovel-ready spot to the
Right.
county to build. And when there's nearly 10,000 people outside, it's hard for me to imagine that 600 additional spaces is great, right? But what are the conditions of those spaces? Are these 3-day spaces where you have to give up your pets and property to go into them? You know, what kind of space are we talking about?
Are we
And-
talking about the measure still, or are we talking about
The MOU.
the-
So this is in
Yeah,
the MOU, right? It's
Mhm.
unclear.
so the deal between the city and county is what we're talking
Yeah,
about. Okay,
right.
got it.
So the MOU is unclear about like what
Yeah.
the
it's
quality
trash.
of these beds are, right?
Right.
You know, they're
Um,
alluding to North Highlands and South Sacramento, but what does that mean?
yeah.
And
So, yeah, I on our side of things, and maybe I'm getting ahead of ourselves, because maybe there's a lot more we can be not cool with on this. And Shannon, I'm sure you know this stuff front to back. So maybe you go first.
No, go ahead.
Okay. The
yeah.
one thing I want to stress is that, like, yes, this does trigger Measure O, but like there are plenty of things in Measure O that, you know, we've been saying from day one, like, if this passes, if you do the unconstitutional thing that has been deemed unconstitutional by a federal court, we take you to court. We fight you. We will fight you every fucking step of the way the second you start harming people. So, you know, part of this measure is that if you have an encampment of 4 or more people who are unrelated, 4 or more tents, the city now is, even if they don't have shelter beds for you, they are empowered to break up your camp, which is incredibly fucking harmful to the folks who are building community. All you have is each other, and that's what this empowers the city to do. The second they start enforcing that, we go to court. Like the second they start doing, you know, going against Boise, the decision that said if you sweep somebody when you have no indoor shelter for them on that time, that's cruel and unusual punishment. Then we start fighting in those spaces. So I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's a bad loss, right? But like, it's always on to the next fight. And it's like, I don't think they understand we're just going to keep doing this.
I think it's inevitable that there will be, that this will end up in court, because
For sure.
in terms of shelter bed inventory, there's a little over 2,000 shelter beds that are available. And there are over 9,000 people experiencing homelessness in Sacramento. So regardless of, like, they would have to put up thousands of beds in order for Measure O not to end up in a courtroom, I think. And so that's just an issue that comes up in terms of Measure O. In terms of like the practical,
the city of Sacramento loves to go to court and lose. Like they're
it's their favorite fucking thing.
They're little pay pigs.
They're so
they
good at it.
love to be punished
Yeah.
publicly and then to have to pay you for it.
Yeah, I mean, and that
Is this their kink?
I think it's their kink. And listen, I don't want to shame the
I'm
lawyers
not
at the
kink
city of
shaming it. I'm
Sacramento.
not kink shaming anyone. I'm just saying, like, you know.
But like, don't be a pay pig
expensive.
with the people's money, you know, and
Yeah.
don't be a pay pig while like, you know, committing humanitarian abuses. Like, just pay someone else.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that sticks out to me about this agreement, and actually, and that, you know, I mean, I could probably talk about this for the entire episode, and I know that's not what we're trying to do here, but the thing that really sticks out to me and that I think is an important point is the piece that Daryl just
The
loves
mayor.
the most, which is the mental health piece, with behavioral health piece. Opening up a behavioral health center downtown, and you know, having these teams of mental health care workers that can go out and diagnose and then support the treatment of folks who need it. If a person is living with a mental health diagnosis that requires medication, and they also are unhoused, the likelihood of them being able to stay on that medication is very low, because in so many cases you have your shit's stolen all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You're in survival mode, so you could misplace things. If a side effect of your mental health medication is drowsiness, you sometimes don't want to take that because it's a risk to your own personal health and safety to take your mental health meds, because the alternative is that you're like, you know,
Froggy.
falling out into sleep and then you end up victimized. And so it's like, is the mental health treatment necessary for those who want it? Absolutely. But there are better ways to make a plan like this work, and that is the housing first approach, like making sure that there's a bed for every head, so that a person can reach a place where they're a little bit more stable and work on that stability, like, and safety, like every day, instead of continuing to like cycle folks through the healthcare system.
Oh.
I mean, that's what is going to end up happening here.
So
And they talk about not having the money to do this shit. Well, you're not going to, like, you don't think it's going to be really fucking expensive to serve the same folks over and over and over again, because they're actually not able to stay on their meds or to make it to appointments or whatever. Like, I can't. This shit is so fucking infuriating. And that's not to say, like, I think that there are people at the city and the county who have worked really hard for unhoused folks, and it's not to like shit on their hard work.
Mm-hmm.
But it is to say that, like, when you read this 19-page agreement that says at the bottom of page 1, the city and county have a mutual desire to improve the coordination and combining of efforts to meet the needs of the unhoused and to move individuals out of homelessness, I call bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think my challenge with this is I live in a world where I'm always trying to work on logic models, because you can always do a bunch of activities, but a logic model takes you from here are my inputs and here are my expected outcomes, and making sure that you check the logic of, is there a cause and effect relationship between what we do and what we hope to see happen, right? And what I find really interesting about this partnership agreement is that there are a lot of things in it that I agree with and think are necessary. Councilmember Valenzuela said, on Monday during the press conference about the jail expansion, that, we're standing right across the street from the facility that says no walk-ins, right? So like, here's an example of people who may need support, and it says right on the door, you have to be referred into this place in order to be able to receive services. So the idea of having a center that is in the city where we can expand the offering of services, knowing that for private insurance, it may take 3 months for you to get an appointment with a mental health professional. And if you are, on Medi-Cal, it could be 6 months to 9 months or more, right? So just expanding that is good overall.
By the way, if you are employed and fully housed and you have like Kaiser and you need mental health care, the number of hoops you have to jump through to get one-on-one care, it will take you months, even if you do succeed. And more often than not, they will throw you in the group session. Like, our mental health system is so fucking broken. And so just imagine experiencing homelessness and trying to get the baseline of care.
Absolutely. And so that's why I'm saying, like, I fully support anything that will allow more people to be able to have some sort of access, and that will expand that access. But when I look at a logic model that says, if my outcome, to Shannon's point, is to reduce homelessness, I don't know that building a mental health facility in the city is going to reduce homelessness.
No.
Right. And so that's the part that it's not a bad activity. It's just, what is the outcome of this activity? Right. The outcome of this activity could be, in some ways, homelessness prevention for some of the people who may be teetering, and because of this may not be able to access maybe the rental assistance that they might need because they can't afford where they are, and end up becoming homeless, right? It may be able to be stabilization for some of the folks who are already securely housed, to make sure that they stay healthy and well so they can continue to work, so that they're not at risk of losing their housing, right? But when I think about reducing homelessness, I don't know that there is a cause and effect where I can look at this and say this activity will lead to, in any reform, this outcome. And that's
what's the answer to homelessness?
Housing.
It's always been housing.
And so the only part, there's like a tiny part of this MOU where, like, sometime in the future, we agree that we'll talk about affordable housing.
Yep.
Like, so what this is a plan to churn people, to make sure that nobody's in one place for very long, and the camps aren't very big, to keep the voters placated,
happy,
the facade that something's happening,
and a minimum of services and potential shelter beds that you may be able to stay in for 3 days or 7 days, or who knows how long. It doesn't say in the MOU. Like, this is a nothing burger. And
it was designed by the people. At the end of the day, we have to remember that this MOU was orchestrated by the authors of Measure O. Yep. And so if we recognize that,
why are they in the fucking room for this agreement? Why the fuck is Amanda or Josh in that room?
What they want is to be able to sleep in front of their businesses and keep their business buddies happy. And so this does just enough that, to Michelle's point, the things that bother them most are less of a problem. It's not really about solving this issue because they're not invested in the issue. They are only invested in being able to have it be out of sight and therefore out of mind.
Yes.
The voters are going to be really upset when they realize that they've been duped. Like, the folks aren't going to go anywhere. There's still going to be almost 10,000 people outside every day. They're just going to be on the move and less secure, with less survival gear,
and
with
probably
more misdemeanor
experiencing
violations.
Yes, and
And
experiencing
more trauma.
deeper deeper mental health crises because they have no security. They don't even have any physical security on where they can sleep.
I mean, let's also not forget that there are plenty of unhoused folks in the city and county who don't trust the shelter system that currently exists,
right,
for a lot of different reasons. And many of those people are folks who then need the mental health support because of the shelter system, because of the trauma they experienced in the shelter system. And like, until the city and the county can figure out a way to shelter people in a way that recognizes them as whole ass people with wants and needs and dreams and imaginations like that, we're just going to end up in this cycle over and over and over again. Like,
I think we saw, as soon as this looked like it was passing, we saw a lot of our politicians going total lukewarm on Measure O and saying, oh, I mean, I didn't care if it passed or not, because they know it's nothing. It will succeed in nothing. And now we get to say, Josh Wood of Region Business, Amanda Blackwood of the Metro Chamber, here's your fucking baby. Let's see what this succeeds in doing. Right.
right.
And I don't know.
Well, the financial limits are pretty interesting to me. So $5 million of unspent general fund money, is required to go to this plan. The city spent $41 million, I believe it was, last year on the Department of Community Response. So I think it's interesting that the number is so much lower. And it's only of the surplus in the budget, which is projected to be non-existent for like the next 4 years.
5 years. Yeah.
Well, Howard Chan made an announcement at the end of
City manager.
the city council meeting on Tuesday, saying that we should expect big changes coming to the Department of Community Response, including more partnerships with police and fire. So,
lovely.
Great.
Let's incorporate cops, because that's going to incorporate a lot more trust with the unhoused folks that get fucking terrorized by them every day.
There are big changes coming to DCR. And someone who's been like holding kind of maybe the police at bay from that is retiring.
Yep.
So DCR is, it's disappointing, because DCR was supposed to be a thing not just that managed the response to the homelessness crisis, but was supposed to remove all these calls from the 911 system that would be better served by responses from medical or from mental health professionals or others. And I don't know that any of that is going to happen now.
Who's retiring? Also, folks,
I don't know if I'm talking out of school, so I'm sorry,
Okay.
Bridget. Bridget Dean is retiring.
That's been the rumor for a while. So I mean,
Bridget Dean is the head of DCR, and DCR, folks, is the Department of Community Response, which is the non-cop response to folks experiencing homelessness. Like, hey, can we hook you up with something? Blah blah blah. Bridget is a former cop. Like, a lot of people were a little uncomfortable with her from the beginning, but she hasn't been terrible in this
No,
role.
and I know she's had there's been tensions with activists and advocates, but I can tell you from just experience on the inside of that system, Bridget was working really hard to make sure, like, to try to keep the police as far away from her system as possible.
So we've got some fights to get ready for in that regard then. Can I ask, like, okay, we've got a new city council, like, basically starting up a week from this show, right? We have 3 new members in Lisa Kaplan of District 1, Karina Talamontes of District 3, and Katie Maple of District 5. I did a little outline on the day of recording on kind of like where our new city council lies politically. And correct me if you think I'm wrong on any of this, but I think let's go from left to right. On our left, we have Katie Valenzuela and then Katie Maple, who are our social democrats, right? Democratic socialists, however you want to put it. You have Mai Vang, then, who she is of District 8. She's like, I'd call her like kind of a dyed-in-the-wool progressive, but like doesn't subscribe to any of the tenets of democratic socialism, or not that I've ever heard her do. After her, I kind of put the mayor there, Daryl Steinberg. Back in the 90s, he was a progressive. And then he took kind of a hard right turn once he went to the state legislature. But now it kind of seems like, I don't know, it kind of seems like he pokes through at a couple of progressive leaning things here and there. So like, I'm kind of wondering if something can bubble up there, especially with all this young blood at city council. To his right, I put Karina Talamontes, the council member elect of District 3. I've heard things back and forth on her. Like, she didn't take any like real estate money or anything this election cycle, but she did take a good deal of cop money. She was the long-term chief of staff for Angelique Ashby of District 1, who was a very conservative, very harmful to a lot of folks in the unhoused community and other reasons, a council member. And so that speaks to her history. And then on top of that, during her campaign for office, I guess she did take the cop money. I already mentioned that. And then she was a yes on O. And by the way, that would have really helped us. We lost by 4 points. You look at her district, that could have been a game changer for us. And what I've heard through the grapevine is that she actually wasn't a big fan of it. So that was really sad to us. So I have her just to the right of the mayor as kind of a centrist Democrat. And then really along the same lines of her, I have Rick Jennings of District 7. I earlier referred to him as the cool dad of city council, another kind of mod Dem. And then to his right, Eric Guerra and then Lisa Kaplan. They both, in their most recent campaigns, Eric for assembly, which he lost, and then Lisa for city council, they took a lot of money from real estate and from landlords and places like that. So I kind of consider them the landlord lobby, basically, of city council. And then to their right, we have Sean Laloy, Sean Baby of District 2, the fascist of city council. Is all of this, what does that layout sound like to all of you? Any pushback?
I don't know that I have pushback per se, but what I will say is that I don't think that these are fixed categories.
No.
I think the end points are pretty fixed on the council, but I think that there are a few folks that, depending on the issue, flip-flop a little bit in there. So there are some things that I think Eric is a little more progressive than Rick on. There are some things that I think Rick is more progressive than Eric on. It'll be really interesting to me to see where the Lisa and Karina folks kind of fall, because I feel like, Karina introduced herself as being like right over there near, Katie and Mai. and then started like moonwalking her way towards Sean pretty quickly over the last few months. So I'm like, that's what's really interesting to me. And then the mayor, I think at times goes like, he really wants to hang out on the left.
He wants to be
yeah.
a cool guy.
He
Daryl,
wants
be a
it
cool
like,
guy.
He just
Daryl
wants
wants
to
it
be-
so bad.
He just wants to be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. We're all
but
young
then-
and fun. Like, dude.
but he wants
come
to be
on.
liked so much
Yeah.
that when he's in the room with the mods and with the more right folks, he starts dancing in their direction. And that's the part that is so frustrating about him, because I really feel like he just really should just like stop trying to be there. Like, you know, there's that point where you have to decide like who you are and where you want to be, and you can't try to please everybody.
What happened to the Daryl who voted against the anti-camping ordinance
I
in the
would
90s?
love to
So
The Daryl who was against the death penalty before it was cool in California.
He got
happened
he
to
got
him?
older and did the thing that they
And he got
told us
more
was going to happen
murdery?
to
Come
us.
on.
Well, no, it's like he did the thing that everybody warned me, at least as I got older, like the older you get, the more conservative you're going to get. And I was like, actually, I would hate my 18-year-old self, because I have a lot of views then that I do not hold right now.
Yeah, I was a fucking live back then. Yeah.
Opposed, right? Like, so I mean, there's some things I don't want them to be on the record, but there's some things that I thought. Luckily, there was no social media for me to, you know, just amplify my ignorance. But I had some thoughts about things that I'm glad I quickly disabused myself of as I moved into adulthood. So all I'm saying is, like, I think he became what everybody says happens, which is you get older, you get more conservative.
So I think part of it is he's been in politics for so long, he's been in leadership for so long, that he gets 10 people in a room and they got to come up with a solution. He cares about like one thing and is willing to compromise on all that other stuff to come to agree to get a deal, right? And that's what government is about, is compromise. And that is a dirty word in a lot of places, and there's things that you should never ever compromise. But at some point,
in liberal
Daryl just
California,
lets
it's
it,
about compromise. Yeah.
like he lets it go too far. Like he lives in you know, this system where he needs to have cover to do progressive things and do like really left things. And I think he has that now on city council. He's got enough cover that he can start doing things that are further and further left. And I hope that he does do that.
He's got a progressive block of 3 really cool young women that, like, if they get that 5th vote on anything they want, if he counts his vote number 4, like, they can do it, you know?
Yeah. I'm excited to see what happens. I mean,
yeah,
there's definitely a shift to the left on this council.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, just seeing Angelique Ashby and Jeff Harris leave, that was astounding. Angelique to Lisa, I have no idea what that one means. Like, I placed Lisa where I did because I'm like, well, it's District 1. Like, Lisa got all this money from real estate, but like, I don't know her. Jeff to Karina is probably the most dramatic shift. Like, I think even Jay to Katie Maple is not as dramatic a shift to the left. So I'm really interested to see kind of how this all pans out. I don't know. I don't know, like, how does this council interact with Measure O? How does it interact with homelessness generally in the future? Like, I'm really curious about all of that, you know?
So you'll notice they jammed this MOU through with a vote on the last night that Angelique and Jeff Harris would be there. So they knew that they would have an MOU that looked maybe different than this with a new council.
Which, by the way, there's a new MOU. What was it? Memorandum of Understanding. Every year, I believe. So this more progressive council will have to agree with a more right-wing board of supervisors next year on some things. So that'll be interesting too.
Since Jacqueline Moreno lost by like 300 votes to Republican
28, I think.
To Pat Hume, a Republican former city council member in Elk Grove. Horrible result.
Horrible
and
guy.
there is talk
beating a great woman.
I want to talk a little bit just here about redistricting, because there were maps that drew, I think it was 3 or 4 Dem precincts into supervisorial District 5 that would have put her over the edge, I think. So, like, I think had we had better maps from the supervisors,
The supervisors got selfish this year, right? I mean,
yeah,
and
a lot
get
of
to write
folks
their
want to lay
own-
this right at the feet of Phil Cerna, who was like the biggest voice against not, because those
he's
two
the District 1
precincts-
supervisor, which is like the most progressive precinct,
Yeah.
probably.
So those precincts were going to come from his district, and although he's completely safe in his district, he did not want to give those up. So had that small change happened in the map, we would have
Phil.
a very different outcome. Here.
Baby.
Bill, baby.
So yeah, I mean, as far as redistricting goes, it's like different in a lot of different places. You know, statewide, like there is like a commission of like 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, 3 independents who kind of like work it all through, which I think is dumb. If 50% of the electorate is Democrat and 24% is Republican, we don't have to talk about that. But at the city level, there is an independent community member redistricting commission that went beautifully this last year. And then at the county level, our supervisors get to just like self-deal. They just get to do it on their own.
And that's
And
the
this
part
is the
that's
natural
stupid.
fucking result.
Yes.
It is so wild to me that that's how it works at the county level. They're like sitting around a fucking poker table.
How do I make sure I'm elected again forever?
Yeah. And the
Fuck
thing is, they
you.
even had the votes to change change District 5 to draw in those Dem precincts. I mean, it would have been just a little bump on the map. Yep.
What
Bananas.
a backwards county.
I
I'm glad you brought that up. I
love it
didn't
here.
know. I actually I knew that there was some selfishness going on. I knew that they deepened their own districts. It didn't strike me that like we could have Jacqueline today if not for a Phil Cerna, who is like, family is political royalty in this town, and this is apparently the result of that bullshit. Okay.
Sick.
This was a fun episode.
I mean, I always love shit talking the
There's
city
so
and the
much more to
county.
come too.
So right now, so we're recording we're after 8 p.m. on Wednesday, and the Board
December
of
7th.
Supervisors are still deliberating
That is
the
correct.
jail expansion. They haven't even voted on the MOU yet.
There's
So
still
that's
public
supposed to
comment.
happen.
And this whole thing started at 11 a.m.
At 11 a.m. They're still
It's-
they're just now doing public comment. I was there for both the district
Flo might be
attorney
going back to it after
and
we
the
record.
yes, my plan is to go back. I was there for both the district attorney, Tian Ho, our district attorney elect, as well as the sheriff elect Jim Cooper's presentations.
But
And
they were really good.
so Tian Ho got up and I was like, oh, this is why Anne-Marie Schubert loved you. Like, he got up and gave the most fear-mongering, he was like, you know, he called everybody who was in the jail being basically accused of a felony, a serious felony, a very serious felony, or a violent felony. There's nobody else in the jail. They're all there for felonies. And then he
Mhm.
said, we have 4 options. And this is literally on a slide. And I just like could not help chuckling. So we have 4 options. We can do nothing. We can do next to nothing.
We
We can do something, or we can do the right thing.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Like,
you little fucking like.
oh my gosh. But it was
Oh,
the
worm.
most like, I mean, just so much of what he was saying was just like, it's not even just that I disagree. It's that like, that
patter.
doesn't feel honest.
Right.
What you're saying doesn't feel honest. And then the sheriff got up, and the scary thing about him is that he's definitely smarter than Scott Jones, right? Which is scary. But he's
This is
equally
Jim
as
Cooper, right?
problematic. Yes.
Yeah.
And so he got up and he then starts talking. He has all these pictures of people, right? Up, and he's just like this victim and that victim and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, first of all, have you like gotten permission from these people and their families to be used in this way?
Classic fucking move though, right?
But
This is
yeah,
90s
exactly. But
tough
then
on crime bullshit.
he went so far as to say, we don't have an arrest code for mental health. So what are we supposed to do? And I was just like, because mental health is not like having a mental illness is not
a crime.
Not a crime.
Like I was just like, do you hear the
You
words coming out of
asshole.
your mouth? Or
You're
do you
so
not?
close.
Like,
He's so close.
He's so
Oh.
Something tells me he's not going to figure it out. $500 million or
Not gonna figure
whatever
it
this is going to
out.
cost.
Well,
him.
that's going to him, right? That's it. That becomes his money.
it's
his
$500
budget.
million or
Yeah.
$1 billion, depending on which option they go through. It's $450
Yeah,
million.
if they go
up
with
to
the right thing,
1.1
right?
billion. Yeah.
Oh,
shit.
God, what a hellscape we live in.
Truly. I hate it
For
here.
the new mental health wing of the downtown jail. It's horrible.
Well, folks, you will be hearing about the result of that. And again, big thanks to our friends with Decarcerate who came on to discuss this too last week. They're really doing incredible work. But do we want to add anything before we wrap?
No.
Okay.
Very decisive.
From Shannon's lips to God's ears. Let's wrap this episode then. Folks, thanks so much for listening.
Yep.
You know where we are on the socials. We don't have to
That's
do all
true.
that
We do.
nonsense. We will all see you. We've got our final episode of the season next week coming up. As most of you know, we take time between the middle of December and middle of January off. There's not much politics happening during that time anyway, which is how that naturally sort of started happening for us. So we've got one more ep, and then we will see you on the other side. And yeah.
Except I won't see you in this next episode. So this is my last one. So let's see. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, Happy Festivus. Enjoy your feats of strength.
I don't think anyone likes the New Year. Like nobody like celebrates the New Year, right? No, it is my least favorite holiday.
It's the only time I can unironically wear sequins other than a cruise ship.
I love
it.
celebrating the New Year.
I really like the New Year, too.
always make black eyed peas and greens on New Year's Day and clean
Okay.
and
Yeah.
take
I've had
down
friends talk about black eyed peas.
yeah, and take down my Christmas decorations and clean things and set intentions for the new year. And it's a whole thing.
I hate it. I stay in and like I don't like the noise, and I'm like just
All right, Grandpa.
weather is inclement usually.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I
a big
this
amateur
year-
drunk night for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a
That-
part of any
that's
of
true.
that.
That's
Yeah.
true. I will say this year I will. Well, my New Year's
Amateur
Eve isn't going to be
drunk.
that much fun, but I am leaving on Saturday for Ghana, and I will be gone for 3 weeks. So I will be celebrating the end of the year at Afrochella, and then at Afro Nation doing Afro Beats things, and so then spending New Year's Eve toasting whoever my neighbor is on the plane because I leave at 10:15 that night. And yes, I'm leaving on New Year's Eve, but after Afrochella and Afro Nation, I am 40 and I will need to sleep. So 4 days of music festivaling or 5 days of music festivaling.
That's kind of fun.
2022 will
That's
owe
so
me nothing.
awesome, Flo.
I'm heading home.
Yeah. I love all of that, especially the idea of like
I
being
love
in
that
this-
for you.
in the Atlantic on as you're crossing into the new year. Like that's an interesting concept.
This is gonna be me for the next 3 weeks.
All right.
Wow.
So Flo is wishing you
Hey,
a happy new year.
Hey.
I am not, even though I think I might be gone next episode too, because fuck New Year's Eve.
I'll be here, everyone, and I'll be super enthusiastic per usual.
Oh yeah, we got quite an ep lined up, folks.
It's gonna
Um,
be fucking dope.
All right, we'll see
It's
y'all
just
next
gonna be
week.
me on the next
It's just
episode.
gonna be like, hello, it's Shannon.
It's gonna be Shannon and those awful terroristic cats climbing.
Yeah,
So don't
with
watch
your,
the
like,
episode.
you-
Just
you're
listen
kind
to
of
it.
like-
Don't watch.
Yeah, like you're kind of pissed off Wednesday Addams vibe, like for
Yeah.
a full hour. It's like it's of the time. That show
Hit
is
me.
great. Yeah, like it'll be good.
I do like the show.
All right.
I do too. I felt so seen.
I like the show too. All right, folks, watch Wednesday, whatever. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
Aw.